And we're live. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to another episode of enLIGHTen with Div and Diana. And we thought today we would talk about radical self-acceptance. And what does that even mean? What exactly is radical self-acceptance? And why does it matter, and why are we talking about it?
All excellent questions.
Got some answers?
Some.
I only got the questions.
No, I think everyone probably, the best place to start is, what does radical self-acceptance even mean? And I think the definition does change slightly from person to person. But for me, it just kind of boils down to everything's good. Like, there's, radical self-acceptance to me is whatever's happening is happening, and just go with it, because it's when you fight reality that you cause yourself trauma.
Yeah. So radical self-acceptance for me is a lot about presence. It's about being with what is, being here in the moment, and rather than create tension or friction for ourselves, just honor and acknowledge this is what's here now. Okay, I accept that, and accept what turns up. Yeah, that's what radical self-acceptance is for me. And well, one of the reasons that's important is that we have a richer quality of life when we're able to appreciate what turns up. And I mean, I can imagine our listeners saying, like, why would you just, how are you going to get what you want if you're just accepting what turns up? Or what might be some of the other objections that they would say?
My favorite would be, I've already done radical self-acceptance. Why are you still talking about it? For the idea, like, God, I am so fuzzy in the head the last couple of days. There's that thing where, like, when you're first starting your personal work, you're like, yep, done that, tick, next one. And you don't realize that it's a perpetual process. Radical self-acceptance, you got to do it again and again and again tomorrow, and again when that thing happens, and again when it's not just like, yeah, I'm good with me now, because everything is in change, so you got to do it again.
Yeah, moment by moment by moment by moment.
Yeah. And there's a difference between accepting that what's here is here and being with it, and accepting it as in, I can't do anything about it, like I can't put effort in. And that is a huge difference. When you fight and you don't have the acceptance of what's here is here, you can't actually deal with what's there. Like, the acceptance is actually the first step to going, this is a bit shit and I want to change it.
Correct. Yeah. To choosing another course of action starts with, this is what's here now. Choosing any decision, whatever comes next, what I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. Okay, what's here now? Let me accept what's the current reality. What's here now?
Mine is some really bad PMS.
Yeah.
And we're doing so much about normalizing body talk this week. I'm putting it out there. I got cramps. They're multiplying, and ow. Okay, this is not my normal experience. I'm normally one of those people that's like, oh, did I have my period? I didn't even notice. Like, smooth sailing. But every now and then, no more than like a couple times a year, I have one, and I refer to it as the bad period, which sounds a little judgy, but it just means that I know I'm gonna cry at irrational things. I think I was telling you, I saw a leaf fall from a tree yesterday as I was getting my coffee. And I just started crying because all things come to an end. And I was like, awesome. This is where we are right now. This is what's happening. And I have had this experience before, and I fought it. I was like, no, you can still go about your life. Just ignore it. Pretend like it's not happening like you normally do. And it dragged and dragged and dragged and got more and more and more painful. And I felt more and more unnurtured. And I got out the other side feeling like a little, like, stressed out, like meh thing. And I was very ineffective during the time I was trying to, I was like, and so I accept that sometimes this happens sometimes. And you know what? It always works out perfect timing. Right now, I'm actually in a position where if I take a couple days and don't really do anything other than be with myself, all good. There's nothing desperately waiting on me. I can chill.
That's a great way to appreciate what turns up. I actually know a number of people who they structure their businesses around what's going on for them in their moon cycles. And depending on the week and the season, whether they're creating content, versus very inward, or what they're doing, they plan their whole businesses around their moon cycles. Perhaps because they have such different experiences internally based on where they are in their cycles. And as we were saying just before we hit live, when the context is different, radical self-acceptance is different moment by moment, right? So the things that you're like, okay, I've got cramps. All right, I might choose to eat the things that I wouldn't normally choose to eat because there's, what's that? I can't see what you're...
Oreos.
I
don't even like Oreos that much, but this month, I wanted some bloody Oreos. And I'm not normally like a eat constantly kind of person. I have like a midday meal, an afternoon, evening meal. That's about it. Other than that, it's just a lot of tea and water. This couple days, nope. I need just food, just lots of food. My body's doing something, connecting to the downward movement or whatever you want to call it, and it's really going for it, and it needs some energy. So I got to be eating a lot of food, which means I've done an extra trip to the store to make sure there was lots of food in the house, because there really wasn't. I'm not, just being with it. Yep, I need a little extra bit of sugar because my body's feeling something.
Yeah, one of the things that I've discovered is when I am craving more sugar, it tends to be when I'm doing more writing, and I've worked out, okay, well, the brain is wanting the glucose. The brain is like, why am I going to resist it? Let's just eat the thing and move on. Like, that's why would I put energy into resisting that? And obviously I learned that through putting energy into resisting that and working out that that's not such an effective strategy. So radical self-acceptance is
somewhere out on the internet. There is what I called the PMS brownie video from like this little series I did where I make a batch of brownies in PMS mode, which was super fun to do. But one of the things I say right at the end is just support your body however it needs supporting. And that's something that I think a lot of judgment can come in, and it's not the radical self-acceptance. A lot of judgment can come in like, so last night I wanted a burger and chips, and I do not normally have a big ass burger and chips right at the end of the day. Like, that's a lot of fuel before sleep. What are you doing? And I was like, you know what? It's what I want. I'm going to have it. And after I did, I felt my body relax. The cramps dissipated for a while. I got a really good night's sleep. And these are the things you want so your body can do what it's doing. And I think it's really important. Sometimes we're very good in this society coming up with rules, particularly like food rules about like what's good and what's bad.
Not useful.
Not useful. It's all energy. It's not useful at all.
Because it doesn't honor context.
It's just fuel. It's all just fuel. And sometimes your body needs a bit more fuel. Sometimes your body needs really high intensity fuel. Sometimes your body's good on the really low intensity fuel. You just gotta roll with it. I mean, I wouldn't suggest eating a family-sized bag of Oreos regularly, because that can't be good either. But if it's something that happens, all in balance.
The truth is, when we're practicing radical self-acceptance, because I can imagine someone saying, well, what about indulgent behaviors? And what about like, like, where do you draw the line for like binge
Yeah,
eating
halfway down the tequila bottle, that's where I draw the line.
That
Sorry, I have to check.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And how I'd respond to that, what I'd say to that is, when we actually are practicing radical self-acceptance, what we discover is there isn't the same, what's the word? It's not necessarily intensity, but it's like, what would you describe? Like there's this whole concept of, it's what we resist persists, right? So the forbidden fruit thing, what we resist persists. So,
oh, I love the topic of forbidden fruit syndrome. I am the perfect example in the entire world. Tell me I can't have it. And I may have hated it 5 seconds ago and I want it so bad. It's like, and actually a weird, very good example from my life, junk food. Growing up, my family had a very strict junk food is a no-no food. But it was still in the house and I used to sneak it constantly. I just like, if I could, I would eat all of it all the time. And as an adult, during sort of practicing that there is no such thing as a bad food, just some foods don't fuel your body great and you should try and keep them in balance, I filled the house with junk food when I lived alone, completely, just like stuffed everywhere. And the second I had complete permission to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, you know what? Junk food does not make you feel good. It makes me feel sick. And even now, like, if I went into the house, there's so much junk food that friends have left here over the last like 6 months, like packets of Skittles and Snakes and Starburst and blah, blah, blah. And they will be here till those said friends come back and eat them, because I probably won't. I have no interest. They just sit there. But when I think of them as, oh, you can't have that, that's when they disappear.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I'm discovering is very much about the poison is in the dose. So anything that you want, have, just what kind of quantities are you going to have? And yeah.
The body is miraculous. It can handle almost anything we put at it. And there is no, like, oxygen can be fatal if you give yourself enough of it. Water can be fatal. So it's not about this is a bad thing, this is a good thing. Some things you can have a little bit of and be totally fine.
Yeah, and it's how you feel and what you need in that moment, and you know, really listening to what the body's asking for. So I've worked out that I eat significantly more sugar when I am let's say not sexually active.
Right, that one. Yeah, we've all had that one. Yeah, that's a good one. If you're not feeding one kind of hunger, the other kind of hunger gets stronger, is the way I put it.
So I'm just observing that. That's where I'm up to. Just observing that. And yeah. We'll see what shifts. Because all things do. Eventually. All things change. Nothing's ever constant other than change.
And the illusion of consistency is how we sometimes trick ourselves into thinking that any of this stops being a process.
Yeah. And even the concept of self.
Yeah. All a construct. No, I think one of the things that is important to sort of keep attention on is the brain and its infinite wisdom of, I guess, organizing the world around us is the way I put it, but trying to create order where there isn't any in order to make us feel comforted. It can act like this is a permanent state, like a temporary permanent state, like this chunk of your life. And, you know, and even within that chunk, things are in constant fluctuation. But when you get to the end of a chunk that your brain's decided is a chunk, there can be some like, oh, but you know, this is the consistent thing. And it's like, well, even during that, it was changing. It's just that now you're experiencing, it's like the wave, and then it just goes, woo. It's just that bit, but it's always been there. It's just sometimes the wave's a bit more intense. And I think that's when we kind of need to be kind. Well, no, not kindest to ourselves, because we should always be kindest to ourselves, but like generous in supporting our bodies. Really practice that radical self-acceptance. Like, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And what I'm hearing in that is, regardless of what's going on in the waves, remember we're the ocean in and through.
Yeah. I remember what it's like. Like, I'm sure at some point in your life you have jumped waves, like gone out and you sort of jump in through the break. Mm-hmm. How many adjustments are you doing per second? It doesn't feel like you are, but you know, when you look at a wave and you go, am I going over or under? And then do you jump up high, or do you turn around so you don't lose your bikini top or whatever? You're making adjustments for every wave. Every wave is different, but they're all waves. And there's all, like, you have the power to, like, the knowledge, whatever, to assess what's happening, make a split-second judgment, and get through to the next wave. Sometimes a wave might take you for a little spin. That's also fun. But that's the same thing that we do in our daily lives. Sometimes it's little waves and we don't really even have to jump. You can just let them roll past you. Sometimes you got to put a little activity into it. I'm really into my metaphors today, aren't I?
Just today?
Always. I like stories. I like metaphors. Metaphors help me arrange the world.
For all of us, metaphors are very important. That's a topic for another episode of Enlighten Up. Perhaps we should wrap up here. We can speak on metaphors another day.
Deal.
Any final words for our audience, or listeners, or viewers?
As much as it is a practice of doing radical self-acceptance, you also got to practice to do radical self-acceptance. It is amazing how deeply ingrained some of those old judgment patterns can be, and how much resistance can come up at certain times. There are still many times where I'm like, you should not be doing that, even though it's the thing that would support me in that moment. So practice the practice if you want to do it. Don't just think it'll be like, it's not a one and done situation. Yes, I like that. That's a quotable. Not a one and done situation. Practice the practice. Good. Good. End on those wise words. And we'll see you back here for another episode of Enlighten Up tomorrow. Bye for now.